by the same voice that never really left. Good evening. It's been a while, hasn't it? If you're still here listening, then maybe you'll remember the fog, the bridge, and the man who never came back. Tonight, we go back there, to the place where sound and silence first learned to speak the same language. Now, listen. The morning came gray. Not soft gray, but that kind that feels like it's waiting for something to break. The old man, the narrator, sat by his window again. Same room, same fog pressing against the glass. But the world felt thinner now, like silence had chewed a hole through it during the night. He had watched Samuel walk into that fog hours ago, watched the bridge swallow him, watched the water ripple like it was breathing, and then nothing. He hadn't moved since. Not really. Just sat there, listening to the empty streets, wondering if silence could ever echo back. Every city forgets its ghosts, he muttered, but this one, it keeps them. He turned his gaze toward the violin case leaning against the wall. Dust floated through the pale light, settling over the wood like time itself had been trying to bury it. He hadn't opened it in years. Didn't dare to, because the last time he did, the strings played by themselves. He reached for his notebook. Old pages, corners curled, ink bled through by rain and regret. The first page was dated 1983. The last, blank. He dipped the pen and began to write. The bridge remembers. That was all. One sentence. But his hand kept trembling after he wrote it, as if the words themselves carried a pulse. He leaned back, eyes drifting toward the window again. Outside, the mist rolled slow, like it had something to hide. Somewhere far, maybe near, a violin note floated through the fog. Soft, fragile, impossible. He froze. It wasn't memory. It wasn't the wind. It was real. He rose to his feet, every bone protesting like an old door hinge. The sound came again, faint, deliberate, as if someone was calling from beneath the river. He stepped closer to the window. Nothing. Just fog. He whispered, "Samuel." The sound stopped. Silence pressed back. And then a knock. Single. Sharp. At the door. He turned. The hallway beyond was dark, only that pale slice of light under the door. He didn't move for a moment. Didn't breathe. Then another knock. Softer this time. Almost polite. He opened it slowly. No one there. Only a wet footprint on the floor. Bare. Leading inward. He followed it one step too until it vanished right beside the violin case. And that's when he noticed it. The latch on the case was open. He knelt down. The lid creaked. Inside the violin. But not as he remembered. The wood had darkened, its color rich and alive again, like it had been freshly carved. And on the strings, drops of water. Not rain. Tears. He touched one. Warm. "No," he whispered. "You shouldn't be back." The candle beside him flickered, its flame bending toward the instrument, like it was listening. He looked out the window again. The fog had grown thicker, and in the distance, faint lights dancing across the bridge. Not cars. Not people. Something else. Something moving with rhythm. With sound. The violin case hummed softly. He closed it. Hard. But the humming didn't stop. It just moved from the case. to the walls, to the floorboards. The entire room began to breathe. He whispered, "You're not here. Your memory." But the memory answered, in music, low, broken, mournful. And the old man knew then, also, the story wasn't done. Samuel wasn't gone. The bridge had called him back. The night came quietly, the kind of quiet that sounds like it's listening. Rain began to fall again, slow and steady, each drop tapping the window like fingers asking to be let in. The old man sat near the candle, the violin case still shut beside him. But the air around it trembled, not from wind, not from fear, from sound too faint to exist. He opened his notebook again. The page from the morning still stared at him. The bridge remembers. He dipped the pen and wrote beneath it, "But so do I." His hand stopped midway through the sentence. He blinked, confused. Why had he written that? Why did it feel like confession? The sound came again, that same melody, slow, uncertain, like someone learning to play a song they already knew once before. He stood, turned toward the window. Through the fog, he could see the faint glow of the bridge lights again, stretching like veins through the darkness. He whispered, "Samuel." And this time, a whisper answered, "Do you remember?" He froze. The voice wasn't outside. It was inside, coming from the violin case. He opened it. The violin strings shivered like they were breathing. Then, one by one, they played themselves, 4 notes, slow and clear, a pattern. He knew it. "The promise theme," he said under his breath. "Our melody." The candle's flame bent sharply, almost horizontal now, pulled toward the sound like gravity had changed its mind. He sat down again, breath shallow, eyes fixed on the violin. "It's you, isn't it? After all these years?" The silence after that question wasn't empty. It waited. And in that waiting, he heard the river, not outside, but beneath the floorboards, flowing, thick, slow, water where there shouldn't be water. He pressed his ear to the ground. Yes, a current, moving under the room. He whispered, "No, not under me, under us." He stood, grabbed his coat, and stepped into the rain. The streets were washed in that kind of silver light that only exists at midnight, the one that makes everything look a little too alive. The city was quiet, except for the sound of the river, louder now, like it was calling names. He followed the sound through the narrow streets, past shuttered shops and sleeping windows, until the fog swallowed everything else. And there it was again, the bridge, the same one, waiting. At its center, the light of a single lamp flickered weakly against the mist, and under it, a shape, human, kneeling. The old man stopped breathing. The figure turned its head slowly. It was Samuel, eyes hollow, clothes drenched, hands shaking. But he was playing. The violin rested under his chin, the bow gliding across the strings with impossible stillness. And the melody, that same one, the one they'd written together. The old man whispered, "No, no, this can't be." Samuel didn't answer, didn't even blink. He just played. Each note hung in the air too long, like the fog was afraid to let go. The old man stepped forward, boots echoing against wet stone. "Samuel, stop." "Nothing." "You're not real." But the sound kept rising, growing stronger, sharper, until it wasn't music anymore. It was memory, screaming. He covered his ears, but the melody crawled through skin and bone. Then silence. Samuel lowered the bow, and finally he spoke. "You left me." The old man staggered back. "No, I tried to save you." Samuel turned toward him, eyes pale as the mist. "You let go first." The old man's throat went dry. He couldn't breathe. The bridge groaned under them. "You fell," he whispered. "You slipped." Samuel shook his head. "We both did." And before the old man could move, the violin burst into sound again, this time wild, unhuman, as if every string was a scream. The mist rose, swirling around them, pulling the old man closer to the edge. He saw Samuel's face, and for a moment it wasn't Samuel at all. It was his own. The world tilted. Water roared below. And as the mist swallowed him, a final thought flickered through his mind. There was never two of us. Then the bridge fell silent again. Only the violin remained, lying against the whetstone, still trembling from the last note. The rain hadn't stopped that night. It just changed its rhythm softer, slower, as if the city itself was breathing through the fog. I remember standing there again, on that same bridge, the one everyone avoids after midnight. They say the sound of a violin sometimes rises from the river below like a whisper caught between wind and water. But I knew better. I knew the story behind it. There was a man. No, a shadow of a man who used to come here every night holding a violin case, just like the one I told you about before. He never played it where people could see him. He waited until the fog was thick enough to hide the truth. And that night, when the city lights drowned in the mist, I saw him again. He wasn't supposed to be there, not after what happened. The rain hadn't stopped that night. It only changed its rhythm softer, slower, like the city was breathing through the fog. I was back on that bridge again. The same one I swore I'd never cross after what happened. The same bridge where the river keeps its secrets and the fog never really lifts. They say if you listen close enough, you can still hear a violin crying under the noise of the wind. But that's not a sound. That's a memory, a sound the city refuses to forget. There was a man once. No, a ghost of a man. He came here every night with a violin case in his hand and silence in his eyes. He didn't play for people. He played for something or someone only he could hear. That night, when the mist swallowed the lights again, I saw him, standing right where he used to stand. And for a moment, it felt like time itself had looped back, like the city was forcing me to remember what I'd tried to bury. I shouldn't have come back. But some ghosts don't wait for permission. The sound of water dripping from the bridge echoed in the dark, slow, patient, like a clock without time. The old man stood still, the violin case still closed in his trembling hand. He hadn't opened it since that night. He looked down beneath the bridge. The city's forgotten tunnels yawned open like silent mouths. That's where the music had come from before, or at least that's what he remembered. He descended the concrete stairs, step by step. Each step was heavier than the last. When he reached the bottom, the air changed colder, denser, full of whispers that weren't really there. Then he saw it. a faint light. It was flickering through the cracks of an old maintenance door, half rusted, half breathing. He placed his hand on the metal. It felt warm. A sound rose, not music this time, a single note, drawn out, trembling in the dark like a bow dragging across invisible strings. He froze. The note was coming from the other side of the door, and it sounded exactly like his violin. The lock gave way with a groan. A rush of damp air spilled out, heavy, metallic, full of old rain and rust. He stepped inside. The tunnel stretched ahead like a throat carved from stone. Pipes lined the walls, dripping in rhythm, the same rhythm as his heartbeat. He moved slowly, the small lamp in his hand throwing weak light on the ground. His footsteps echoed, not alone. Every sound had an answer. Every breath came back twice. He stopped, listened. Nothing then, faintly. Music. A distant chord, fractured, like something trying to remember itself. "Who's there?" His voice disappeared into the dark. He turned a corner. The walls narrowed. The ceiling dipped low. Water shimmered across the floor like black glass. The music grew clearer now, a bowl scraping, then sliding, then breaking into a sound too human to be just an instrument. He followed, deeper, colder. The tunnel split into two, left silence. Right the sound. He went right. The light flickered. Once, twice, then died. Darkness swallowed him whole, or he stood still. No breath. No sound. Then a voice. "You kept playing, even after." He spun around, but saw nothing. Only darkness, alive and waiting. "You don't remember the fall, do you?" He tried to speak, but his throat wouldn't obey. The air felt thick, as if the tunnel itself was breathing. Something moved at the edge of hearing. Footsteps, slow, wet, deliberate. He took one step back, and his shoe hit something hard. He looked down. His lamp flickered once more, just enough light to see it. A bow, broken, floating in a thin film of water. He knelt, touched it. It was warm. Then he heard it behind him. A violin string tightening. He turned and for a split second saw him. A figure at the end of the tunnel. Soaked, pale, smiling. Then the light went out again. The tunnel widened into a chamber, a hollow space under the city, where the walls sweated and the air stank of iron. The sound of the violin was everywhere now, not music, but memory. Each note pulled him back through years he'd buried. He saw flashes, a bar, laughter, Ellen's hand on his shoulder, a promise whispered over broken strings. "If I die before you, play for me." He tried to shut it out. He pressed his palms to his ears, but the sound only grew louder inside his skull, behind his eyes, like something clawing to get out. Then a light, not from his lamp, a pale blue shimmer rising from the water itself. He took a step closer. The glow rippled, and the outline of a face formed beneath the surface, the same man from the bridge. Samuel froze. The air, his breath caught. "Henry!" The name fell out before he could stop it. The water stirred. The shape rose slowly until a man stood before him, dripping, colorless, but unmistakably alive. "You remember?" Samuel staggered back. "This isn't real." "It's real enough for you to hear me." The voice was wet, each word dragging like something pulled from the riverbed. "You played that night, remember? I told you the song wasn't finished." I didn't mean for it to happen, Samuel said, his voice shaking. You slipped, the bridge was wet, You tried to save yourself. The words hit him harder than any blow. You ran, Samuel. You left me in the water. And when the city found my body, you played that same song and called it yours. Samuel's chest tightened. His hands trembled. The violin case fell open beside him. The man's eyes flicked toward it. Play it now, he said. Finish it. I can't. Then I'll play it for you. Henry stepped closer, water trailing behind him like ink. Samuel backed away until his shoulders hit the wall. The tunnel seemed to shrink around them. Stop. Play it. Samuel's hands moved without thought. He lifted the violin, the bow trembling against the strings. The first note cracked through the air like lightning, then another, then another. The sound filled the tunnel, vibrating through the walls, the water, his own bones. And as he played, Henry's form began to fade, not vanishing, but dissolving into the melody itself. Let me go, the voice whispered. Samuel closed his eyes. Tears mixed with the damp on his face. I'm sorry. The final note echoed, long, aching, infinite, until the chamber fell silent. He opened his eyes. The tunnel was empty. Only the violin in his hands, its strings broken, its body warm, and the faint ripple of water where Henry had stood. Samuel knelt. The letter, soaked and torn, drifted by his knee. He caught it. Half the ink had washed away. Only 3 words remained. Music never dies. He smiled, a quiet, hollow smile, and whispered, Neither do we. Then he stood and began walking back toward the faint light at the tunnel's end. Each step echoed differently now, not alone at all, but accompanied. A duet, soft, fading. They say every bridge holds its own story, some built from stone, some from silence. But this one remembers guilt. It hums when the rain falls, like it's still waiting for an apology the world forgot to give. People cross it every day. They don't hear the music call. They don't see the ghost. But sometimes, when the wind moves just right, you can almost feel someone walking beside you, quiet but not gone. And if you listen close, you'll hear what Samuel heard that night. A single note, soft, forgiven. Because some songs never end. They just learn to live in silence. And that was the last song the bridge ever heard. If you've been here through the rain, through the silence, through the echoes, then maybe you understand now. Some ghosts don't haunt us to scare us. They stay to remind us that we once cared enough to listen. So if the night ever feels too quiet, don't run from it. Let it speak. Let it remember. Because every sound we'd lose still waits somewhere in the fog, soft, patient, waiting to be played again. Thank you for listening, not just to the story, but to what stayed behind it. Good night.